Live? Live! I am here! Hey, Jay Patel, why aren't you in my number thing? Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I am spending time here in the classroom. I'm going to do my presentation here. Yes, Jay. It's time for you to stop needing to repeat yourself so often. So often. But it is, dude, awesome to see you. I know you've been waiting as much as I have for this moment, and I'm super excited that you're here. Oh my gosh, all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. Hey, Sean B., you are here as well. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited for you to be here too. Oh, we've already heard that one. A bouquet of balloons. Well, considering we have been in the deep downs, we are in this other space. I got to be representing on live. Oh, JP, I've been missing you. How are you? JP, Jay, Sean. Is our other man here? Is our other man? Oh, Jensen, you showed up. I like when you show up. Did you just bellow yourself, JP? That is really weird. Hello, Sean Brown. Where's Brian? Brian is always here at this point. Where is he? I'm glad to see that you're okay. It is nice to see you. As you can see, JP, you may recognize where I am. You may recognize that I've got some pretty nice comfies going on around here. You know, when you're the only person, that's not comfortable. That's not comfortable. But maybe I'll save it for later. I am glad to see you. Ah, Meg, you came too. It's good to see you. Oh my gosh. So, welcome to the classroom. Looking a little blank. Looking a little, oh. Yes, you have just been introduced to my gift from Isabella Silas from years and years and years ago when she had the fortune of going to Hawaii. And he's always been overlooking our room. You also have, those of you who have been in the classroom, you will remember our iguana who holds my books, the sacred shelf in which you don't get to touch. The other thing that those of you who haven't been here for a while, and I'll say that things have been missing. Yeah, you can see one right about there. We've got one of our many dream catchers. We only have a few more minutes and then we're going to get started today. The only other thing that I always want to recognize as long as we're here in the room, I want to make sure that we represent grandfather right there. Always the first thing in a classroom to go up. Always the last thing to leave a room, for sure. Let's see, anything else? Oh, yes. We have the 4 rules. This is a safe place. Treat people with dignity and respect. Respect the learning space of others. And manage yourself, just like we do here in the group. All right, Deuteronomies, it is really, really nice to see you. I'm going to say to you, good day. I have been working very hard, so I am not very pretty today. And it is time to start reading. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday, we talked a little bit about personification because there's so many things that are going on in regards to characters or non-human characters that take on characteristics of humans. That is called figuratively personification. The other thing that I noticed a lot while I was reading yesterday were those words that make a sound like the sound that they make in the world, like thump or swish or screech or ah or whoa, those things. Now, I know some of you in here are saying, that's simple, Mr. O. I know what that is. That is the most confusing of all figurative language words. Onomatopoeia. It's actually onomatopoeia. That's how you say it, onomatopoeia. That is, in English, the word that describes any word that makes the sound that it kind of sounds like woof or bark. But there were a whole bunch of those in yesterday's reading. The other thing that I wanted to touch base with, hopefully you and your taller person in your family, reviewed the whole graphic content piece of the last session. We met Migri Sao, and Migri is a very important character to our story, but she was brought up in a terribly sad situation for herself. And so I just want you to know as we begin this adventure today, that things will maybe not look up, but they will certainly be better than living at Uncle's house. So let's get started. The Tale of Despereaux. Welcome to my classroom. This is where most of my learning happens. Usually in this room, you would see another 28 characters, wonderful people, the human beings of the class of excellence, the core of discovery, this year's Gwyn Oaks team. Those of you who are here representing, you guys are there. Yeah, I'm sitting in the classroom. You can see our butterflies from Terrazine right here. You can see our character words, the blue ones that are going around. There's so much for you guys to be able to see. So I figured I would let you guys in on this. I will tell you that the Gargoyle and Egghead wanted to come along, but unfortunately, I could not allow them to come along. I needed all the space in the car. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, if I am not mistaken, the last thing that we read, it said this. You, a princess, don't make me laugh. Oh, this is, if I'm not mistaken, the cook whom Migri is working with for. And they said, you, a princess, don't make me laugh. This, reader, was a little joke on Louise's part, as she was not a person who laughed, ever. Not even at a notion as ridiculous as Migri Sao becoming a princess. So now, let us begin with chapter 30. We are scooting along with this, chapter 30, to the dungeon. Yeah, to the dungeon. At the castle, for the first time in her young life, Meg had enough to eat, and eat she did. She quickly became quite plump, and then plumper still. She grew rounder and rounder and bigger. Only her head stayed small. Reader, as the teller of this tale, it is my duty from time to time to utter some hard and rather disagreeable truths. In the spirit of honesty, then, I must inform you that Mig was the tiniest bit lazy. And, too, she was not the sharpest knife in the drawer. Idiom! That's one. If she's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, one, no, she has not been made into a knife. What does it mean if she's not very sharp? It means she's dull. So if she's not the sharpest knife in the drawer, that means idiomatically, that's right, she's not very intelligent. So one, she's a little lazy, and she is also not very intelligent. Now, the other part that you need to pay attention to is those are character traits. They may come in very handy that you know that. She'll do things that'll say, yeah, I'm not surprised. But then there will be other things that maybe happen that you will be surprised about. So I must inform you that Mig was the tiniest bit lazy, and two, she was not the sharpest knife in the drawer. That is, she was a bit slow-witted. Because of these shortcomings, Louise was hard-pressed to find a job that Migri Sao could effectively perform. In quick succession, Mig failed as a lady-in-waiting. She was caught trying on the gown of a visiting duchess. A seamstress she failed at. She sewed the cloak of a riding master to her own frock and ruined both of them. And as a chambermaid. Chambermaids are sent to clean rooms, but she stood open-mouthed and delighted, admiring all the gold walls and floors and tapestries. We talked about tapestries yesterday. Exclaiming over and over again, "Gaw, ain't it pretty? Gaw, ain't it something then?" And did no cleaning at all. And while Mig was trying and failing at these many domestic chores, other important things were happening in the castle. The rat in the dungeon below, Roscuro, was pacing and muttering in the darkness, waiting to take his revenge on the princess. And upstairs in the castle, the princess had met a mouse, and the mouse had fallen in love with her. Will there be consequences, reader? You bet. Just as Mig's inability to perform any job well had its consequences, for finally, as her last resort, Louise sent Mig to the kitchen, where Cook had a reputation for dealing effectively with difficult help. In Cook's kitchen, Meg dropped eggshells in the pound cake batter. She scrubbed the kitchen floor with cooking oil instead of cleanser. She sneezed directly on the king's pork chop, moments before it was to be served to him. "Of all the good-for-nothings I have encountered," shouted Cook, "surely you are the worst, the most cauliflower-eared, the good-for-nothingest. There's only one place left for you. The dungeon." "Do you see? You see? To the dungeon. But she's not getting killed." "Eh?" said Meg, cupping a hand around her ear. "Eh? You are being sent to the dungeon. You are to take the jailer his noonday meal. That will be your duty from now on." Reader, you know that the mice of the castle feared the dungeon. Must I tell you that the humans feared it too? Certainly, it was never far from their thoughts. In the warm months, a foul odor rose out of the dark depths and permeated the whole of the castle. And in the still, cold nights of winter, terrible howls issued from the dark place, as if the castle itself were weeping and moaning. Simile, comparing how sad the castle seemed and how it seemed the wind was weeping and moaning. "It's only the wind," the people of the castle assured each other. "Nothing but the wind." Many a serving girl had been sent to the dungeon bearing the jailer's meal, only to return white-faced and, oh my gosh, sometimes you skip a page. White-faced and the kitchen floor with cooking oil instead of cleanser. We were already here. Hold on a second. Here we go. Many a serving girl had been sent to the dungeon bearing the jailer's meal, only to return white-faced and weeping, hands trembling, teeth chattering, insisting that they would never go back. And worse, there were whispered stories of those servant girls who had been given the job of feeding the jailer, who had gone down the stairs and into the dungeon, and who had never been seen or heard from again. Do you believe that this will be Meg's fate? Do you believe it? Goh, I hope not. What kind of story would this be without Meg? "Listen, you cauliflower-eared fool," shouted Cook. "This is what you do. You take the tray of food down to the dungeon and you wait for the old man to eat the food. Then you bring the tray back up. Do you think you can manage that?" I reckon so," said Meg. "I take the old man the tray, he eats what's on it, and then I bring the tray back up. Empty it would be. Then I bring the empty tray back up from the deep downs." "That's right," said Cook. "Seems simple, don't it? But I'm sure you'll find a way to bungle it up." "Eh?" said Meg. "Nothing," said Cook. "Good luck to you. You'll be needing it." She watched as Meg descended the dungeon stairs. As they were the very same stairs. Hold on a second, I have to dance a little bit. Come on, movement. Come on. I love economy things, but reality is that it sometimes gets in the way of our reading. "Nothing," said Cook. "Good luck to you. You'll be needing it." She watched as Meg descended the dungeon stairs. They were the very same stairs, reader, that the mouse Despereaux had been shoved down the day before. Unlike the mouse, however, Meg had a light on the tray with the food. There was a single flickering candle to show her the way. She turned on the stairs and looked back at Cook and smiled. "That cauliflower-eared, good-for-nothing fool," said Cook, shaking her head. "What's to become of someone who goes into the dungeon smiling, I ask you?" Reader, for the short answer to Cook's question, you must turn the page. Oh, and I will. Oh, hi, Abby McDaniel. It's good to see you too. Welcome. I'm sorry to interrupt my reading, but it's really nice to see you too. Welcome. Chapter 31. A Song in the Dark. The terrible foul odor of the dungeon did not bother Meg. Perhaps that's because sometimes when Uncle was giving her a good clout to the ear, he missed his mark and delivered one good clout to Meg's nose instead. This happened often enough that it interrupted the proper working of Mig's olfactory senses. Pause. Infer what olfactory senses are. There's an olfactory area of your brain. Now, if the smells of the deep downs do not bother Miggery, and her nose isn't working quite well, your olfactory senses are those that come with the sense of smell. And so it was that the overwhelming stench of despair and hopelessness and evil was not at all discernible to her, and she went happily down the twisting and turning stairs into the dungeon. "Cool," she shouted. "It's dark, ain't it?" "Yes, it is, Mig," she answered to herself. "But if I was a princess, I would be all glittery likes, and there wouldn't be a place in the world that was dark to me." At this point, Miggery Sal broke into a small little song that went something like this. "I ain't the Princess P, but someday I will be. The Princess He, someday I will be." Mig, as you can imagine, wasn't much of a singer, more of a bellower, really. But in her little song, there was, to the rightly tuned ear, a certain kind of music. And as Mig went singing down the stairs of the dungeon, there appeared from the shadows a rat wrapped in a cloak of red and wearing a spoon on his head. And Roscuro quietly fell in step right beside Miggery Sal. At the bottom of the stairs, Mig shouted into the darkness, "Go! It's me, Miggery Sal. Most calls me Mig, delivering your food. Come and get it, Mr. Deep Downs." There was no response. The dungeon was silent, but it was not quiet in a good way. It was quiet in an ominous way. It was quiet in the way of small, frightening sounds. There was the snail-like slither of water oozing down the walls, and from around a darkened corner there came a low moan of someone in pain. And then, too, there was the noise of the rats going about their business, their sharp nails hitting the stones of the dungeon, and their long tails dragging behind them through the blood and the muck and the filth. That is a great paragraph to describe where we are. At least one of you has to be sitting there with a face on, kind of like mine, like you just tasted something terrible. Reader, if you were standing in the dungeon, you would certainly hear all of these disturbing and ominous sounds. If we were standing there together in the dungeon, we would hear these sounds and we would be very frightened. We would cling to each other in our fear. But what did Miggery Sal hear? Reader, you know. What did she hear? Not much. That's right. Absolutely nothing. And so she was not afraid at all. Not in the least. She held the tray up higher, and the candle shed its weak light on the towering pile of spoons and bowls and kettles. "Gaw," said Mig. "Look at them things. I never imagined that there could be so many spoons in the whole wide world." "There is more to this world than anyone could imagine," said a booming voice. I have to go back. "There is more to this world than anyone could imagine," said a booming voice from the darkness. "True, true," whispered Roscuro. "The old jailer speaks true." "Cool," said Mig. "Who said that?" And she turned in the direction of the jailer's voice. Chapter 32. Beware of the rats. The candlelight on Mig's tray revealed Gregory limping toward her, the thick rope tied around his ankle, his hands outstretched. "You, Gregory presumes, have brought food for the jailer?" "Gaw," said Mig. She took a step backward. "Give it here," said Gregory, and he took the tray from Mig and sat down on an overturned kettle that had rolled free from the tower. He balanced the tray on his knees and stared at the covered plate. "Gregory assumes that today again there is no soup." "Eh?" said Mig. "Soup!" shouted Gregory. "Illegal!" shouted Mig back. "Most foolish," muttered Gregory as he lifted the cover off the plate. "Too foolish to be born. A world without soup." He picked up a drumstick and put the whole of it in his mouth and chewed and swallowed it whole, bone, meat, tendon, and all. Here, here, said Mig, staring hard at him. You forgot the bones. Not forgotten. Chewed. Oh, said Mig, staring at Gregory with respect. You eat bones. You are most ferocious, sir. Gregory ate another piece of chicken, a wing, bones and tendon and meat and all, and then another. Mig watched him admiringly. Someday, she said, moved suddenly to tell this man her deepest wish. I will be a princess. At this pronouncement, Chiaroscuro, who was still at Meg's side, did a small, deliberate jig of joy in the light of one candle. His dancing shadow was large and fearsome indeed. Interesting. So there was a little tiny shadow upon him. Let's say Chiaroscuro is like this, right? And there's a shadow, there's a light from the candle kind of shining right at him like this. And then because of that, the shadow up on the wall gets really big, right? Like, I mean, you'd make it like this and then just be here. But up on that wall, it would look really big. And so Chiaroscuro, what does he want most in life right now? Revenge. On whom? The princess. What does Gregory want to become? The princess. And so now we are in a very interesting predicament. We have Chiaroscuro wearing one of the spoons from the royal family on his head, looking for revenge on the princess, and now Miggery Sal desires to be a princess herself while she watches Gregory. He starts dancing. Gregory sees you, Gregory says to the rat's shadow. Roscuro ceased to dance. He moved to hide beneath Mig's skirts. Hey, shouted Mig, what's that? Nothing, said Gregory. So you aim to be a princess? Well, how everyone has a foolish dream. Gregory, for instance, dreams of a world where soup is legal. And that rat, Gregory is sure, has some foolish dream too. If only you knew, whispered Roscuro. What? Shouted Meg. Gregory said nothing more. Instead, he reached into his pocket and then held his napkin up to his face and sneezed into it once, twice, 3 times. Bless you, shouted Meg. Bless you, bless you. Back to the world of light, Gregory whispered, and then he balled the napkin up and placed it on the tray. Gregory is done, he said, and he held the tray out to Meg. Done, are you? Then the tray goes back upstairs. Cook says it must. You take the tray to the deep downs, you wait for the old man to eat, and then you bring the tray back. Them's my instructions. Did they instruct you too to be aware of the rats? The what? The rats. What about them? Beware of them, shouted Gregory. Right, said Meg. Beware the rats. Roscuro, hidden beneath Meg's skirts, rubbed his front paws together. Warn her all you like, old man, he whispered. My hour has arrived. The time is now, and your rope must break. No nibbling this time, rather a serious chew that will break it in 2. Yes, it is all coming clear. Revenge is at hand. Chapter 33. A rat who knows her name. Mig had climbed the dungeon stairs and was preparing to open the door to the kitchen when the rat finally spoke to her. May I detain you for a moment, ma'am? Mig looked to her left, then her right. She saw nothing. Down here, said Roscuro. Mig looked at the floor. Go, she said, but you're a rat, ain't you? And didn't the old man just warn me of such? Beware the rats, he said. She held the tray up higher so that the light from the candle shone directly on Roscuro and the golden spoon on his head and the blood-red cloak around his neck. Blood-red cloak. Does Miggery have any connection to the blood-red cloak? Your brain should be thinking about that a little bit right now. There is no need to panic, none at all, said Roscuro. As he talked, he reached behind his back. Using the handle, he raised the soup spoon off of his head, much in the manner of a man lifting his hat to a lady. Go, said Mig. A rat with manners? Yes, said Roscuro. How do you do? My papa had him some cloth much like yours, Mr. Rat, said Mig. Red like that. He traded me for it. Ah, said Roscuro, and he smiled a large, knowing smile. Ah, did your dad really sell you for this tablecloth? That's a terrible story, a tragic story. Reader, if you'll pardon me, we must pause for a moment to consider a great and unusual thing, a portentous thing. That great, unusual, portentous thing is this. Roscuro's voice was pitched perfectly to make its way through the tortuous path of Mig's broken down cauliflower ears. That is to say, dear reader, Miggery Sow heard, perfect and true, every single word that Roscuro uttered. You have known your share of tragedy, said Roscuro to Mig. Perhaps it is time for you to make the acquaintance of triumph and glory. Allow me to introduce myself, said Roscuro. I am Chiaroscuro. Friends call me Roscuro, and your name is Miggery Sow. And it is true, is it not, that most people call you simply Mig? Ain't that the thing, shouted Mig. A rat who knows me name? Miss Miggery, my dear, I do not want to appear too forward so early in our acquaintance. But may I inquire, am I right in ascertaining that you have aspirations? What you mean, aspirations? Shouted Mig. Miss Miggery, there is no need to shout, none at all. As you can hear me, so I can hear you. We two are perfectly suited, each to the other. Roscuro smiled again, displaying a mouthful of sharp, yellow teeth. Aspirations, my dear. Exactly what I want. There is, my dear, a way to make that happen. I believe that there is a way to make that dream truly come true. You mean that I could be the Princess P? Yes, your highness, said Roscuro, and he swept the spoon off of his head. He bowed deeply at the waist. Yes, your most royal Princess P. Cool, said Mig. May I tell you my plan? May I illustrate for you how we can make your dream of becoming a princess a reality? Yes, said Mig. Yes. It begins.
Mr. Keith?
Yes?
Are you still here?
Only for 2 minutes left.
You have a side door, right? Did you need to stay longer? So you can leave out the side door, or you're going to come back tomorrow?
I'll do both. How about that?
I hear you. What you say?
I'll do both. How about that?
All right, so we were going to lock the building. Is that going to be okay? Are you going to go out the side door now, or are you going to wait for a little bit? Because it won't set the alarm off if you go outside the side door, but you can't go in the hallway.
I will go outside the side door.
All right, see you tomorrow, Mr. Keith.
Bye, Miss Long. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, it's all good, brother.
You have to go to the bathroom?
Mr. Ray, I don't need any of those things.
All right. Bye.
Oh, isn't it nice to work in a place with so many wonderful people? Mr. Ray, Miss Long, you guys all know him. I'm so sorry to interrupt. I have to go dance for a second, so give me just a quick second. I'm sorry. I should have done that while they were here. Perfect. I love the ecosystem. We're getting really close. So what do you mean? Oh, we've done the aspirations. Princess, he calls her the Princess P, and it begins, said Roscuro, with yours truly, and the chewing of a robe. Mig held the tray, with the one small candle burning bright, and she listened as the rat went on, speaking directly to the wish in her heart. So passionately did Roscuro speak, and so intently did the serving girl listen that neither noticed as the napkin on the tray moved. Nor did they hear the small mouse-like noises of disbelief and outrage that issued from the napkin as Roscuro went on unfolding, step by step, his diabolical plan to bring the princess to darkness. End of the third book. hold on a second. I need to do just a little bit of, I need to reread that because I think I understood what happened. But readers, sometimes you have to go back and reread things. Remember, Mig was about ready to leave. She had just fed Gregory. Earlier in the book, you heard a little bit about Gregory and who he was hoping to help because of a story he was telling, right? So listen to this again, knowing that. So in this moment, Roscuro is telling Mig the plan of how to cut through a rope. You know who has the rope? Gregory. Don't waste your time, Sean. I'll fire you right now. It's nothing. You don't even have an idea. See, now you've ruined it. Sorry. So passionately did Roscuro speak, and so intently did the serving girl listen, that neither noticed as the napkin on the tray moved. Your brain should be saying, napkin, move. Nor did they hear the small mouse-like noises of disbelief and outrage that issued from the napkin. Issued, meaning that were sent, that was said, that was talked. The napkin is talking. That issued from the napkin as Roscuro went on unfolding, step by step, his diabolical, which means terrible, plan to bring the princess to darkness. Who is in that napkin? The fourth book, Recalled to the Light. Chapter 34, Kill 'em, even if they's already dead. That's the title. Reader, you did not forget about the small mouse, did you? Back to the light. That's what Gregory whispered to him when he wrapped Despereaux in the napkin and placed him on the tray. And then Mig, after her conversation with Roscuro, carried the tray into the kitchen. When she saw the cook, she shouted, "It's me, Gregory Sal, back from the deep downs." "Ah, lovely," said Cook. "And ain't we all relieved?" Mig put the tray on the counter. "Here, here," said Cook. "Your duties ain't done. You must clear it." "How's that?" shouted Mig. "You must clear the tray," shouted the cook. She reached over and took hold of the napkin and gave it a good shake, and Despereaux tumbled out of the napkin, landed directly, bloop. That is an onomatopoeia. Despereaux tumbled out of the napkin and landed right directly, plop, in a measuring cup full of oil. Ack! Another onomatopoeia. Ack! Said the cook. "A mouse in my kitchen, in my cooking oil, in my measuring cup. You, Mig, kill him directly." Mig bent her head, looked at the mouse slowly sinking to the bottom of the glass cup. "Poor little Missy," she said, and she stuck her hand into the oil and pulled him out by his tail. Despereaux, gasping and coughing and blinking at the bright light, could have wept with joy at his rescue, but he was not given time to cry. "Kill him!" shouted the cook. "Kill him!" "Cool," said Mig. "All right." Holding Despereaux by the tail, she went to get the kitchen knife, but the mouse's tail, covered in it as it was with oil, was slick and difficult to hold on to, and Mig, in reaching for the knife, loosened her grip, and Despereaux fell to the floor. Mig looked down at the little bundle of brown fur. "Cool," she said. "That killed him for sure." "Kill him even if he's already dead," shouted Cook. "That's my philosophy with mice. If they're alive, kill them. If they're dead, kill them. That way you can be certain of having yourself a dead mouse, which is the only kind of mouse to have." "That's some good sophisy." "That is, kill them, even if they're already dead." "Hurry, you cauliflower-ear fool," shouted the cook. "Hurry!" Despereaux lifted his head from the floor. The afternoon sun was shining through the large kitchen window. He had time to think how miraculous the light was, and then it disappeared, and Mig's face loomed into view. She studied him, breathing through her mouth. "Little Missy," she said, "ain't you going to skedaddle?" Despereaux looked for one long moment into Mig's small, concerned eyes, and then there came a blinding flash and the sound of metal moving through the air as Mig brought the kitchen knife down, down, down. Despereaux felt an intense bit of pain in his hindquarters. He leapt up and into action. Reader, he scurried. He scurried like a professional mouse. He zigged to the left. He zagged to the right. "Go!" shouted Mig. "Missed him!" "Ain't that a surprise?" said Cook, just as Despereaux scurried under a crack in the pantry door. "I got the little Miesy's tail, though," said Mig. She bent over and picked up Despereaux's little tiny tail and held it up, proudly displaying it to Cook. "So?" shouted Cook. "What good will that do when the rest of him has disappeared into the pantry?" "I don't know," said Mig, and she braced herself as Cook advanced upon her, intending to give her a very good clout to the ear. "I don't know." Chapter 35. The Knight in Shining Armor. Despereaux was pondering the reverse of that question. He was wondering not what he would do with his tail, but he would do without it. He was sitting on a bag of flour high atop a shelf in the pantry, crying for what he had just lost. The pain in his hindquarters was intense, and he wept because of it. But he also cried because he was happy. He was out of the dungeon. He had been recalled to life. His rescue had happened just in time for him to save the Princess P from the terrible fate that the rat had planned for her. So Despereaux wept with joy and with pain and with gratitude. He wept with exhaustion and despair and hope. He wept with all the emotions a young, small mouse who has been sent to his death and then been delivered from it in time to save his beloved could possibly feel. Reader, that mouse wept. And then he lay down on the sack of flour and slept. Outside the castle, the sun set and the stars came out one by one. And then they disappeared and gave way to the rising sun, and still Despereaux slept. And while he slept, he dreamt. He dreamt of the stained glass windows and the dark of the dungeon. In Despereaux's dream, the light came to life, brilliant and glorious, in the shape of a knight swinging a sword. The knight fought the dark, and the dark took many shapes. First, the dark was his mother, uttering phrases in French, and then the dark became his father, beating the drum. The dark was Furlough, wearing a black hood and shaking his head no. And then the dark became a huge rat, smiling a smile that was evil and sharp. "The dark," Despereaux cried, turning his head to the left. "The light," he murmured, turning his head to the right. He called out to the knight. He shouted, "Who are you? Will you save me?" But the knight did not answer. "Tell me who you are," Despereaux shouted. The knight stopped swinging his sword. He looked at Despereaux. "You know me," he said. "No," Despereaux said. "I don't." "You do," said the knight. He slowly took the armor off his head and revealed nothing. No one. The suit of armor was empty. No, said Despereaux. "There's no knight in shining armor. It's all just make-believe, like Happily Ever After is." And in his sleep, reader, the small mouse began to cry. Ladies and gentlemen, that is chapters 30 through 35. We have a crying mouse who has lost its tail, who knows the plan of a rat. He also knows Miggery Sal, though she's not very quick. She's not very sharp. She did find a job for herself. Gregory did promise to help Despereaux, and Despereaux is now up in the regular castle. This is an amazing story. What will happen? You're going to have to come back tomorrow. I love you. I care for you. I want to send you off in the desperate deep downs of your own life and wonder, who do you connect to most? Are you the romantic Despereaux who's trying to save somebody? Are you Miggery, who seems to just keep not having quite the luck that one should have in life, but yet keep a positive attitude? Or are you like the rat Roscuro, looking for revenge? What is it that you're so angry about? Beyond that, without any further ado, I hope you have a wonderful afternoon wherever you are. I hope that the day brings joy and barefoot and maybe a hug or two from somebody you're living close with. Maybe you give somebody a special call and look at them like I'm looking at you right now and say, I love you, I miss you. If I could, I'd hug you. Other than that, maybe write a letter to your old teacher and tell him how much you like him or them or her. Maybe think about what it might have been like if today you could have been in school. Without further ado, I will tell you this room is not the same without you, even if you've never been in this classroom before. I'm going to be outside again tomorrow. I love you. It's been really fun to read with you today. Thank you. I hope that you stay safe. I hope that you wash your hands. I hope that you help somebody do something that you didn't know how to do before right now. Ask them to help you so that you can understand how to do it from now on. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, take care of your shoes, and I love you. Get out of here. Thank you.